Today's message is about walking through the unknown, and Spirit's saying it may seem unknown, but you know how to choose your orientation. So when you actually choose your orientation and you know that you got this and understand these principles of reality, it's not unknown at all. You are supported, you are carried, and this is your confirmation. So today the message, I pulled a couple cards from the Abundance Attraction Oracle deck, and I got these two cards, A New Direction and Lure of the Ego. And it's really interesting because they're both really connected, because when you're walking in the unknown, this is kind of a term from, I don't know if it dropped in Tarot or where exactly it's dropped from, but I've definitely walked through the unknown. It's basically where you're going through some vibrational shifting, your identity is changing, the old is falling away, and you've made some new moves, and now you don't know what's coming down the pipeline. But it's interesting because what can kind of, of course, there's no right or wrong, and divine timing is absolutely perfect. Actually, in the last video, we were talking about how destiny is like this huge theme park, and you're here to explore a theme, but you can explore different versions of the park to explore your theme, and different versions of yourself get different versions of destiny to explore based on your choice. And my guides are saying, actually, if you don't choose it, another fractal holographic probable self version of you will. And then once you return home and kind of expand into a broader perspective, you'll experience all versions of yourself and what all versions of you did. But going back to these cards, this unknown, it's interesting because what can kind of gunk it up is what they're saying. And again, I kind of set that whole thing up with that there's no right and wrong, and you can't really gunk it up. But, if you want to be as efficient as possible in your moving through reality, like as a seamless master with less resistance, more good times than hard times, they're saying this ego really comes up because the key is for the ego to realize that it's better to hand it over to the higher self and to metaphysics, to the laws of the universe, which basically state, choose your focus, set your eye on the prize, set your sight on the stars, and then move along that trajectory, receive along that trajectory from a very embodied state of being, knowing where you're going. If you do that over the course of time and space, right, the unfolding of this journey, you will arrive, regardless if you're segment intending for something really short, just for the day, or if you're going for the long haul, like let's say for something big, like your relationship or career or something like that. So what can throw us off, so to speak, from the human perspective, it seems like delays, is really the ego not letting go of the control. The ego feeling like, well, I need to micromanage the how and the when and the exact form of everything so that I feel at peace, so that I feel at rest. But this surrendering portion, this letting go, rather, it doesn't even have to be a surrender, because surrender almost sounds like a sacrifice. But it can happen in so many ways. Like for me, I've got hidden points in my life where I just kind of hit rock bottom, or I just ran out of steam, and I was like, you know what? I don't even care. That works. You can proactively choose it, or they're saying with this kind of understanding, and many of you are here because you already know this, you're just here for the good vibes, this is your confirmation and your reflection. And for some of you, maybe it's a little new, this kind of thinking. It's just that Spirit's got you. Your destiny for fulfillment is there for you. All you got to kind of do is get out of the way and be open to the how and the when and the form. It's really about getting the ego, which has taken on way too much, like way too many tasks for the self. It's like the ego saying, oh, I can control my heartbeat. Oh, I can control my breath. It doesn't need to do all that stuff. I mean, of course, if you're doing it for detoxing or, some kind of holotropic breath work or something, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just, generally speaking, the ego thinks it needs to micromanage how everything happens, when it happens, and all of this is programming. It's all by design. We're here to break through that. And so Spirit's saying, look, the unknown, you're actually completely supported. The Fool in the Tarot, if you know, you know. The Fool just has that bright-eyed optimism, okay? It doesn't know all the things, but when there is a knowing, I actually did a video about this. It was one of the first videos on this channel I did. I think it's called You Are Supportive, so you can check that out. Is how supported you actually are if you're just non-resistant. If you're actually believing that you're supported, all the better, all the better. But as long as we're non-resistant, we are supported. Non-resistance is helpful just for kind of a smooth sailing through the unknown. But really, we also want to make sure we don't have any glass ceilings. That's why the idea is set your sight on the stars. If you really understand metaphysics and how supportive the reflection is, Spirit's saying, you have nothing to worry about. All you got to do is talk to your ego, which is talking to those parts of yourself, really. They're just parts of the self. They're like the bark on the tree. The bark on the tree is not the tree. Okay, it's just for protection. It's just for identification. That's all it's for. And the ego for the human has become, for most people, again, by design, has become as if it is the end all, the full-on identity, but it is not. And so Seth material is coming to mind because Seth says, you know, you want to make your ego plastic with time. You want to explain to your ego and to different parts of yourself what their job function is and how they don't need to worry about these things and how they're actually mucking it up by worrying about all these things, by trying to control how it happens, controlling when, all these kinds of details. They're saying actually change is the constant of the universe. And when you become kind of the eye of storm isn't really appropriate here because it's not always a storm. It's just when you become the center and you're stable in that centeredness, you can go anywhere and anything and you know it's all going to work out and you know that you've got this. And of course, destiny and nature can be equally harsh and things happen that are contractual that the conscious mind doesn't know of. But other than that, okay, other than these kinds of contracts like time's up and it's time to go and the entity chose to go through a certain kind of experience, you know, maybe some disease or some kind of accident or something like that, or they could choose through their sleep, whatever. They're saying barring that, the power that we have through our choice is tremendous. But part of that challenge is learning to talk to those parts of ourselves and the ego about letting go of that control. And it really is about these three particular factors they're mentioning. They're saying, say it again, basically the how, the when, and the exact form. If you can let go of that and trust that you are totally covered, everything is working out for you, then it will. And if you trust that you've got this and whatever you can't handle, you can hand over, you know, do your best, hand over the rest. Spirit's like, we've got you. So really it's just about keep talking to yourself. And the unknown is one of the greatest places to be. They're nudging me. They're like, share your experience. So when I was in this major unknown experience, and it was so crazy. It's like I fell off a cliff or something like that, but I don't even know how to explain it. I started, like, my intuition was on fire. I just had so much momentum when I made the moves. I was like making moves on intuition, and some of them actually didn't work out, to be honest, like in the way that I would have preferred. But it was so crazy, like how it all ended up working out. You know, you connect the dots later, and I just cannot even express. When I was making those moves, I was like literally, I was between, it felt like I was walking through the void between one step and I had no idea where the next step was. And I'd make the move and I really felt supported. Actually, I don't even think I can really explain viscerally just how it felt, but I just couldn't even believe how confident and supported I was just flying on my own momentum and along this trajectory. And anyway, so that's what Spirit wanted me to express, that you are incredibly supported. And it is a choice. And if you choose that trajectory in the reflection, that's you're going to experience the evidence of that, how supported you are, how things work out for you. The key is getting those other parts of self, in other words, our ego and shadow, on board so that we're moving as one cohesive whole in peace, right? With the peace and the momentum of our knowing. So that's the message for today. If you enjoyed this message, please share your beautiful energy, like, subscribe, share, and comment. And if you're interested in coaching, readings, or visionary mind-blowing art, you can find that information in the description box. Thank you so much for joining us for today's message, and I will see you in the next one.